Hello friends, so today's video is going to be a library TBR as well as a library tour. So I live in the Phoenix area of Arizona, and my husband and I often on the weekends will kind of make a date of going down to the downtown library, the downtown Phoenix library. And it is such a cool building, first off, but then also libraries are so fantastic, and what they do for communities I think is absolutely amazing. I have really fantastic local use bookstores in the area that I live in, so I'm often talking about them, Changing Hands and Bookman's. They are fantastic. Definitely check them out if you ever have a chance to come to Arizona, or if you have a bookshop.org account, you can actually attach it to Changing Hands. You can support them that way. But regardless, I don't really talk about our libraries very much, and so I wanted to dedicate some time to supporting the library, showing some love to the library, and giving you a little bit of a tour, as well as talking about some books I've checked out that I'm hoping to get around to soon. I'll have a timestamp for when the tour starts, and then I'll have a timestamp for when the library TBR starts. So without further ado, let's kick it off. Jumping now into some of the things I've checked out from the library. I've checked out some manga, some comics, and some books. And some of the books are really new releases as well. A lot of you know I've been trying to prioritize talking about some new releases. It helps authors out a lot. I'm really grateful that the library gets them, because sometimes it's very expensive to be getting a lot of new books all the time. And one of the great things about the library is when you go to check something out, it tells you how much you're saving. And so that's always fun to see. Anyway, jumping into some of the things I've checked out, I'm going to start with some of the manga that I've gotten recently. So we have some Golden Kamuy, some Silver Spoon, and Yona of the Dawn. So Golden Kamuy, my husband and I have the first couple of volumes of it. It's a historical story that is, I've heard if you like Vagabond, it's a good one to check out, except for that it's also really funny. And it follows this gold rush kind of time period, and you learn a lot while you're reading it. And I've just heard that it's hilarious, so I'm really excited to hopefully jump into that one here pretty soon. Silver Spoon is by the same person who wrote Fullmetal Alchemist. You all know Fullmetal Alchemist is one of my favorite series of all time. It's in my top 5 completed fantasy series of all time. I love it so much. And the fact that there is more by her makes me very excited. So I have right here volumes 3, 4, 5. There's also another library that my husband and I are going to go to where I have volumes 1 and 2 on hold. After that, we have Yona of the Dawn. So I actually own the first 2 volumes of this, and I saw somebody compare this to kind of the Grisha series, and it's kind of like a young adult fantasy story. I'm all for that. I hear that there's also a little bit more of a romantic plot line in this story alongside the fantasy elements. And A lot of you know I enjoy both young adult and adult fantasy. I would love to check out some more fantasy manga, especially ones that the main character is somebody who also, enjoys love and loves love. So I'm excited to see this one. It also looks very pretty. I love Sailor Moon. I grew up watching Sailor Moon. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And so there is a certain art style that's just pretty. It's just nice to look at. And I think I'm going to get that with these. I'll show you the front of one of them so that you can see what I'm talking about. Just look at how, isn't the artwork, it's just so lovely. I think it's precious. There's also a couple of books that I've already finished, and one of them I've talked about quite a bit recently, and another one I will be talking about more in an upcoming new releases wrap up. But The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, as well as Amari and the Great Game, I very much enjoyed both of these stories. This one, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, and so I checked it out from the library, and now I love it so much, and I'm so excited because I saw that Fairy Loot is going to be doing a special edition of it, and I'm like, yes! And I know for a fact that I loved it, and it's been one of my favorite books of the year, so thank you to the library for making it available to check out. Amari and the Great Game was fantastic. This is one of those stories where I can't wait for my nieces to start getting into these bigger chapter books, because I think that they would really, really like Amari. The first one, it follows a young girl whose brother has gone missing, and then she discovers that magic exists, and maybe some of the elements of magic existing play a role in her brother's disappearance. So she goes to this magic school. The rest of the world doesn't really know about this magical school. She's learning about magic, about her own magic, and then trying to also piece together what happened to her brother. And the second one, I liked quite a bit. I thought it was great. It definitely leaves off in a place where you're like, well, where's the next one? So enjoyed both of these very much. I will definitely be looking for Amari and the Great Game at my local bookstores. And then this one, I can't wait for the beautiful special edition of it, because it was so delightful. I also checked out 3 books by T. Kingfisher. So I have to say, whoever it was that recommended T. Kingfisher to me months ago, I feel like you started something, because I mean, there were a few people here and there that would talk about T. Kingfisher, of course, and they were fans, of course. But one of you said, I feel like T. Kingfisher doesn't get talked about enough on BookTube. And I was like, all right, I'm going to check them out. And I checked them out, and I've fallen in love with T. Kingfisher. And it feels like everybody is reading T. Kingfisher now. So you started something. You started a T. Kingfisher movement, whoever it was. Thank you, because I really have enjoyed this author's works that I've read so far. And the 3 that I checked out would be The Seventh Bride, The Raven, and The Reindeer, which this one feels like a good one to pick up this time of year. And then The Clockwork Boys. I looked for The Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking because everybody recommends that one to me. I did get it on sale as an audiobook, and I do constantly look for it. So I'm going to keep looking for that one, but I have these 3 in the meantime. And what I like is these are, T. Kingfisher. Why can I never say that? T. Kingfisher. Her books are often relatively short, but I find that the stories are often very enjoyable, and I don't really feel like a ton is missing just because they're shorter. So they're just the most refreshing fantasy to pick up in between other longer, more intricate worlds. Those sorts of fantasy books, they're just so nice to pick up in between those. After that, we have a couple of new releases that I'm hoping to read soon, as well as a sequel to a book that I have and I enjoyed the first one of, and I wanted to see what I thought of the sequel before committing to buying it. And so that last one I mentioned would be The Undertakers. It's a sequel to The Conductors. And The Conductors is sort of a murder mystery story. We follow a woman who uses her magic to help her try and solve a murder. And it also takes place not too long after the Civil War. So that's the idea. And there's a lot of deeper themes that are touched on in the first one. There's an element of the main character's sister who she has not seen and who has gone missing. And it was when they were running away as slaves. So now she's trying to do what she can to find her. And those parts of the story hit really hard. But I thought that the first one felt pretty self-contained. So I don't know what I'm going to think of this second one, but I wanted to give it a go. And then the 2 newer releases, we have Misrule, and then The Spear Cuts Through Water. I've never read anything by this author. I've heard good things, but I hear that they are quite demanding fantasy books. So I wanted to check that one out, give it a go. And then Misrule is the sequel to Malice. I liked Malice. It is a Maleficent origin story, but I didn't love Malice, so I kind of wanted to see what I think of the sequel before committing to buying it. The last few would be a couple of volumes of some manga as well as a couple of graphic novels. So the first one, I'm pretty sure is going to be incredibly depressing, and that would be Downfall, the first volume of Downfall. So this is by the same person who did Goodnight Poon Poon, and I really want to read Goodnight Poon Poon. The problem is my husband and I like to talk about what we're reading with one another. He's read all of Goodnight Poon Poon, and I know a lot of what happens, and I know it's incredibly depressing. So I kind of feel like I should read Downfall first, and then maybe read Goodnight Poon Poon. But I'm guessing, one, the fact that it's by the same person, and two, the fact that it's called Downfall, that it's also going to be really depressing. After picking that up, I feel like I will need something that puts me in a good mood, and so my husband and I decided we would check out, because we've been wanting to check this out, The Way of the House Husband, because it sounds hilarious. It's somebody who used to be a part of the Yakuza, and then now it says, but one day he walked away from it all to travel another path, the path of the house husband. And then last for the comics, we have Rat Queens. So I checked out the first 3 volumes, and I don't know a whole lot about this, but it sounds like it's really fun. And I really, of course, love fantasy. So in trying to get more into comics, I'm like, well, what fantasy comics are out there that aren't superheroes, right? And I know about Monstrous, and I plan to read Monstrous. We have Monstrous. I hear Monstrous is basically epic fantasy, that it's really, there's a lot to it. It's really intricate. You're going to be confused for a while. It takes a while to get settled in, and I'm excited about that. But I also wouldn't mind finding one that's fun and adventurous, and you can just kind of jump into whenever, and I'm hoping that that'll be Rat Queens. If you have your own recommendations, by the way, feel free to leave them, because I would love to know of some great fantasy comics. That's it though for this library themed video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.